Well, hello again all my classic dirt bike loving YouTubers, and welcome back to my increasingly popular YouTube vintage off-road video channel. Now, something a little bit different on my channel this time. This is just a very short clip featuring a few of the off-road motorcycles I came across while visiting the Sammy Miller Motorcycle Museum in the south of England in the summer of 2019. Now, Sammy has over 400 motorcycles in his collection, and he has bikes from all disciplines of motorcycle racing. And of course he also has normal road going machines, but these are just a few of the off-roaders I picked up during my visit. Now, our first featured bike is this immaculate Bultaco Sherpa 250. Now, this was Sammy's last ever works Bultaco before he then went to Honda to begin developing and designing their range of trials bikes. Now, this particular bike of Sammy's, of course, has been fitted with this highboy frame, tank and exhaust system. Now, of course, this is another one of Sammy's stunning restorations, and this bike, of course, again is painted naturally in this beautiful British racing green. And of course, Sammy has a very large display of his old competition bikes in the museum, and every one of them is certainly worth a look. So if you're down in the south of England, why not make a point in having a look round Sammy's wonderful motorcycle collection. But that's Sammy's immaculate Bultaco Sherpa 250. Now, this next featured bike is very rare. This is a 1967 250 Villiers Cheetah. Now, this bike is yet another of these machines that you virtually never ever see at classic and vintage race events. Now, the bike is of course powered by this Villiers 37A motor. Now, the bike also has a 531 Reynolds chassis, which was made by Bob Golmer, and these bikes were mainly supplied in kit form, and they say that this was to avoid the customers paying purchase tax when they were buying the bike. But nevertheless, another very rare classic British racer from Sammy's museum. Now, this next machine was an absolute stunning bike. This is a 1967 Greaves Model 24 MX2. Now, this of course was powered by a 360cc motor, and of course the engine has that twin port exhaust, and also has a 4-speed gearbox. Now, this particular bike was raced by Ernest Jackson, and the bike was then donated to the museum by Ernest's daughters. Now, of course, the bike has been fully restored to better than brand new condition, and once again painted in this beautiful British racing green colour. Now, of course, the downside for me filming these bikes on the day was that these bikes were so tightly packed together, there wasn't much room to squeeze cameras in between, and I'd just have loved to have got some of these bikes outside to show them in a much better light. But nevertheless, a very nice machine, a 1967 Greaves Model 24. Now for me personally, this was one of the more intriguing off-road bikes in Sammy Miller's collection. Now this is a 1980 400 Michael that's been adapted as a two-wheel drive machine. Now the bike was built by Dave Watts in 1980 and was tested by the British Army with a view to using them for cross-country use. Now I would have liked to have had a closer look at this bike, but of course, as I mentioned earlier, it was packed in close to many other of the machines, and so I couldn't really get the shots I wanted, but a very interesting bike nonetheless. Now this bike's builder Dave Watts also went on to make two other two-wheel drive motorcycles for Yamaha that were based around the old XT Yamahas. But this Michael is an interesting concept that appears to take the drive off the primary drive sprocket, and then a chain stretches up to just underneath the tank, and then somehow the drive gets transferred to the left hand side of the bike and then down onto another chain, leading to what looks like a standard Michael rear wheel. Now this looks like it's been turned around as well, and has a normal rear wheel drive sprocket to power that front wheel. Now I'm not entirely sure if it actually worked, but it certainly looks very ungainly with all that alloy hardware down the one side of the bike. But it's a very interesting machine anyway. That's a two-wheel drive 1980 Michael. Now this next feature machine has got to be, without doubt, one of the world's greatest ever trials machines. Now this bike is Sammy Miller's 500cc Ariel with the registration number GOV132. Now this bike was designed, developed and ridden by Sammy himself. Now the achievements, the trophies and all the other accolades that this bike has won with Sammy in the saddle is just absolutely amazing. Now this bike and Sammy have been 11 times British Trials Champion, twice European Champion, and this bike with Sammy in the saddle has won over 1,400 trials events riding this particular machine. Now if you look at that boarding there, you can see the multitude of achievements that this bike has won with Sammy in the saddle. Sammy looks like he's won just about everything there is to win on a trials bike. Now the bike weighs about 245 pounds, which is it's not a lightweight by any of today's standards, but it's a fair weight considering you've got that huge 500cc engine. Now when it comes to the particulars of the Ariel motor, now I'm not entirely up to speed with these kind of trials machines, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by attempting to recall any of the facts and figures. But suffice to say that this is a bike with some very great history behind it between the bike and Sammy himself. I know you don't need me to tell you the history of Sammy Miller. Sammy's history has been well documented, and it's certainly been well documented with this machine, an absolute icon of a trials machine. But then again, you don't need me to tell you all the information about these particular machines. If you're ever in the south of England, then why not make a point in popping in to this museum, which has a fantastic collection of over 400 motorcycles from all disciplines of racing, and many road going bikes as well. It's a fantastic day out, not just for the mums and dads, but for the whole family. So I hope you enjoyed just a quick look at a few of these bikes from the Sammy Miller Museum. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, don't take it from me, get yourself down there and have a look round this fantastic facility. Now this guy, he's been there, and he's had a cracking look round, and he absolutely loved it.